I want to welcome Jennifer Rich back with us this week. Jennifer is a Knox member, and she's also the owner of Crossroads Counseling and has been a counselor for a number of years. And we were privileged to have Jennifer with us last week, talking about how we handle darker emotions like fear and anger and depression in the midst of coronavirus. And we're asking Jennifer to come back because this week we want to do a couple things. And the first thing that we want to do is ask Jennifer to give us more practical advice on how to address those darker emotions. What are some of the things that you can do when you sort of feel yourself moving into those places that you just don't want to be?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a wonderful conversation for us to have, because now that we are really 6 weeks into a stay-at-home order, 8 weeks into children being home, we're all probably feeling a little more punchy. We're probably feeling a little bit more irritable, frustrated, sad. It's hard to know what to expect. And so our old coping patterns that we've had in the past might be failing us now. And it would be important for us to just think about what we need in the moment, what we need today. So as we think about emotions like sadness, grief, loss, fear, anxiety, they're very powerful emotions, and they can be scary emotions. We don't know what to do with them. And I talked about this a little bit last week about having a balance between lament and gratitude. And one of the ways we can do that in a practical way is to journal about it, to talk about it. To every day think about what am I sad about? What have I lost? What is disappointing, difficult, irritating? And what am I grateful for? What has been good today? We can write about that. We can talk about that with our friends. We can share that with our loved ones. One of the things that my family does, we try to share that around the dinner table. What's one good thing about today, and what's one hard thing about today? That gives our kids an opportunity to share what they are wrestling with and helps them learn how to balance gratitude and lament. The other thing we want to think about are what are our patterns and routines that have been disrupted, and how do we put new patterns and new routines into our life? The challenge with a 5, 6, 7, 8 week or longer stay-at-home order is all of those things have been disrupted. The normal routine of you getting in the car with your coffee or going to your favorite coffee shop and going to work, for most people, that's not going to happen. And so what kind of routines can we put in that make things, make us feel like our day has more rhythm to it? So getting up, taking a shower, or exercising and taking a shower, having breakfast, spending time with the Lord, thinking about where am I going to work if I'm working at home? Is that a good place for me to work? Do I have good lighting? Do I have a good chair that I can sit in? And just start to think through those rhythms and patterns throughout the day. Try not to pick up your phone the first thing you do in the morning. We're really attached to that device, and it's really a very difficult thing for our brains to kind of go from being asleep to waking up, picking up our phone, and the first thing we look at is the news, which can really affect us. So try not to pick up your phone first, and try not to keep your phone on late at night. Let that not be the last thing you look at in the evening, because that's the other thing that's challenging for people. As we go through this period of time, our sense of time is off. It's hard to know what day is it and how long have we been in this, and so we are staying up later. We're not following our normal sleep routines, and we need to practice good sleep hygiene. That's going to be something that's going to help our anxiety and our depression and help us feel more like ourselves. So don't be on the phone or a device 45 minutes before you go to sleep. Try to turn that off, get out a book, read a book, do a puzzle. You can listen to music, soft lighting, but keep everything kind of low light at night so that your brain knows it's time to sleep. especially if you've been on a device like this all day long, you've been on Zoom calls all day long, your brain needs a chance to rest. Like we talked about last week, this is exhausting for your brain. You're asking your brain to do the work that your entire body does. So we're not designed to try to get all of our information from a video. We're designed to get our information from being in the presence of people.
Yeah, yeah. I'm wondering, Jennifer, if you could talk about the difference between the ordinary depression that people can struggle with and clinical depression, and not wanting to minimize that ordinary depression, but recognizing that your approach to either one is likely pretty different, and what might be the differences we need to recognize. I mean, how do I even know if I'm clinically depressed? But even that more ordinary depression is still debilitating. Could you speak into the difference between those two things?
Sure. I think the reality is most of us feel a low level of sadness, loss, some depression right now. That's kind of that when I become aware of something that I'm not going to get to do, or I feel irritated that I can't do, I feel confined. There's a reason you feel confined, because you are confined. That's so our feeling agitated about that is pretty normal. Our sleep might be a little disrupted. Clinical depression is when it's something that is much stronger than that. Clinical depression looks more like I'm not doing a good job of taking care of myself. My hygiene is slipping. I might not be taking a shower regularly. I might not be eating well, or I'm eating too much. Appetite is a big indicator for depression. I don't feel motivated to do things. The things I actually enjoy doing. So if you enjoy gardening, but the last thing you want to do is go out and garden, that feels overwhelming. It feels like you're trying to move through a pea soup fog. It feels like you're not able to make that next step. That's kind of a sign that it's more of a clinical depression. Your sleep tends to get very disrupted. Either someone sleeps a lot longer but never feels rested, or they have disrupted sleep throughout the night and they can't stay in a sleep pattern that is healthy for them. So clinical depression tends to have it has to have about a 2-week window of pretty strong symptoms. And it is a little bit hard to determine, is this just situational or is this clinical? But I would say if you are wondering about that, you talk to somebody, talk to a friend. And if your friend talks to you about that, listen to them. Don't give them platitudes. Don't try to kind of solve their problem for them. Just listen to them and keep your ear open for things like, I just don't have much joy for my life. I don't really want to do anything. They may have dark thoughts, and dark thoughts aren't something that we have to be afraid of, but we do need to pay attention of. We all have dark thoughts at any given point in our life. But if they start moving to that place where life feels hopeless, life feels like despair, then we need to get help. And there is good help available.
Yeah. So I think, again, just to reiterate, one of the things I heard you say last week, and again right now, is don't stuff this. Talk about it. Reach out to a spouse, to a friend, to a pastor, to a counselor. I mean, we've got Jen here, and she can't handle everybody, but she can take some clients. Her practice can take some clients. She can refer you. But whatever it is you're dealing with in that range of darker emotions, please reach out, and we want to underline and emphasize that. Another thing we wanted to do in the video today was also talk a little bit about how parents care for their children, given the unique needs of children at different ages and stages. And so there's not a one-size-fits-all pattern for caring for your kids. And so I've asked Jennifer, she talked a little bit about that as well today. particularly for you parents?
Yes, so I'm a mom. I have two children. We have a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old, and our girls are in online school, um, and they are doing well because there's a pretty good schedule with online school for them. But they have a lot of challenges with this time, and children in general have a lot. Um, they're struggling too. So when we think about kids, a lot of times we think they're just little adults. Like we tend to relate to them, like they have the ability to think about things the way we think about things. And the bottom line is from 2 years old to into their early 20s, their brains are growing. They do not have a fully developed brain. So when we try to relate to our children as if they do, we're really missing them. And we want to be able to meet them where they are. So with adolescents, they're going through a normal pattern of individuation, of starting to separate themselves from their parents and their family and building out their own identity and aligning more with their peers. That's very normal. That's what should be happening for them. Now, adolescents may be feeling a lot of different things right now. They may feel a lot of relief. You actually may find your adolescent is doing better than you thought because they're not under the same amount of pressure that they were under while they were in school. They're not doing multiple sports, multiple clubs. Their school might be a little bit more simple right now. So they may be enjoying it. They're also probably the best equipped generation to communicate online, to communicate on text with one another. So they may feel a little more connected to their peers because they're used to talking via FaceTime or text or an app. But what you want to watch out with your adolescent is because their brain is developing, because they can't always interpret things well, as children are, a good way to think about this is children are good recorders of events, but not good interpreters of events. So we need to help them understand what's going on. So adolescents are prone to more isolation. Watch out if they're in their room too long. If you haven't seen them in a while, go up, engage with them, take a walk with them, spend time with them, bake with them, do something with them that they would want to do. We want to watch out for depression. We want to watch out for anxiety with adolescents. Because they're impulsive, we want to make sure that they're doing well. But they may actually be doing relatively well during this season. But just check in with them and see how they're doing. Adolescents also like to talk to you late at night when you're tired and you're about to go to bed. So be prepared for those late night conversations, those side-by-side conversations. Tune in and listen, because they will tell you what's going on. With middle children, middle childhood, so that's 6 to 12, they're struggling with this in a different way. They don't have the social skills. They don't have access really to online communication with their friends or FaceTime. Most of them don't have phones. We're not, some might, but many don't. They're going to be struggling more with this. It's hard for them to do school online. It's exhausting for them to do school online. You might notice they have big emotions right now. You might notice that they have a hard time regulating their emotions. Anxiety in children looks different than anxiety in adults. It might look like outbursts of anger. It might look like regression. Like suddenly your 9-year-old is playing with dolls again in a way that she would have when she was 6. That's normal. Children try to cope by going back to a safer developmental place. And so we want to be present with them. The most important thing we can do as parents is regulate our own emotions and not match our children's emotions. So if I'm having a hard day, my kid is watching me. I need to take a couple deep breaths before I engage with my child. I need to make sure that I am in a good place. And then I want to get face to face with them, not big and, powerful and strong with them, but meet them face to face and talk to them and see what they need, because this is difficult. Try to get them out, try to get them doing things that they would like to do. One-on-one time is really important at this age. Do something that your child wants to do. And when your child says, I'm sad or I'm overwhelmed, tune in, don't dismiss it, tune into them and validate those feelings. With preschool and under, toddlers are in a very, that's a difficult phase because you can't reason with them. It's hard to explain why you can't go to the park, why you can't go to the store. Pastor Bob, you might know a little bit about this with having your grandson around. It's harder for them to understand why they can't see their friends and they can't go out. So acknowledging their big feelings, give them words for their feelings. You seem very overwhelmed. You seem angry. You seem frustrated. Help them with the language because they don't have the language. And what you're going to notice with toddlers, and you might see it even with middle childhood, is they may act out more. You might see more temper tantrums, more outbursts of anger, frustration. And our first response is to kind of like try to stop that. But really what they need is comfort and self-care. Like a toddler cannot self-soothe. Their brain is not developed to do that. They need us to help them self-soothe. So whether that's, if you've got a snuggle bug kid, you wrap them up in your arms and you just sit with them. If you have a kid that doesn't really want to be touched, sit quietly next to them. Don't leave them in their emotion because they don't know what to do with it. Our job as parents is to help our children regulate their emotions and learn how to manage their emotions.
Yeah. Listening to what you're saying, I think of how often Henry is staying with us for coronavirus reasons and how guilty I am of trying to reason with a 4-year-old all the time. So thanks for that advice. Well, again, thanks for so much to digest, to think about, to ponder away, to apply and use. And I'm so thankful that you shared your wisdom with us. And so for you who are listening from Knox or beyond Knox, I hope this has been a help to you. And thank you, Jennifer, so much for sharing.
You're welcome. Thanks, Pastor Bob.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.